Today, we're diving into a really powerful new idea in mental health. It's a way of thinking that finds healing not just inside an office, but out in the world, in gardens, on farms, and right in our own communities. And believe it or not, it all starts with something super, super small. Okay, I want you to actually picture this. You take a tiny, hard, dry little basil seed, and you drop it in a glass of water. And you just watch. What happens? It doesn't stay all rigid and tough, right? It starts to absorb the water, and this gentle, kind of gel-like coating forms all around it. It gets soft, it's protected, and now it's ready to grow. Just hang on to that image. So, a basil seed. What in the world can that teach us about mental health? Well, that simple little process is actually the perfect metaphor for a whole new way of thinking about how we heal. It's the key, really, to the big idea we're going to unpack together today. But to really get why a new approach is so critical, we have to start with the problem. And that problem is a widening gap in our current way of doing things. Here's the tough truth of it. The need for mental health support is just exploding, and our conventional systems, well, they just can't keep up. It's creating these huge gaps in care, and a lot of people are falling through them. The old models on their own just aren't cutting it anymore. So instead of just trying to do more of the same, faster, this new framework suggests we ask a totally different kind of question. And this is where we meet something called Innovative Experiential Therapeutics, or IET for short. Now, IET isn't some new trademarked therapy method. It's more like a different pair of glasses for looking at the world. It's a framework that recognizes that, hey, real lasting change doesn't only happen on a therapist's couch. It happens when we're digging in the dirt, when we're connecting with animals, when we're part of a community. And this right here, this is the question at the very heart of IET that really flips the script. Instead of asking, how do we fix this person in isolation, it asks, how do we work with the systems that are already out there, in nature and our communities, that already help us feel grounded, connected, and like we belong? It's a huge, huge shift. And this way of thinking is built on a few really foundational ideas. One, we are wired for connection with each other. Two, and this is so important, nature isn't a tool to be used. It's something we are in a relationship with. Three, healing isn't just in your head. It's in your body. It's physical. And finally, maybe our mental health struggles are actually a symptom of a much bigger disconnection from each other and from the world around us. You know, this new perspective means we even have to change the words we use. It's a subtle but really powerful shift. We stop saying nature-based, which sounds like we're using it, and start saying nature-connected. We're not using nature as a tool. We're in a relationship with it. See the difference? It changes the whole dynamic. Okay, so you might be thinking, this sounds nice. It's a lovely philosophy, but is it real? Well, it turns out this isn't just a theory. It's backed by some really solid research that went out and mapped what's already happening. And get this, researchers looked at just one island, Oahu in Hawaii, and they found 71 different programs already doing this kind of work. Programs based on land, in the water, rooted in culture. So this healing ecosystem, it's not a dream. It already exists, often working quietly outside of the formal healthcare system. And they studied this ecosystem with some serious rigor. They didn't just count, they did interviews, surveys, they mapped out the networks, a whole 6-step process to really understand how these programs work and who they're helping. And here's where it all comes full circle. After talking to all these amazing people running these programs, one theme, one word kept popping up again and again. They described their work as softening. They said they create the conditions that allow a person's mental or emotional hardness to just ease up, creating space for growth. Does that sound familiar? That's our basil seed. That's exactly what it does. So what's the big takeaway here? What does all of this really ask of us? Well, it's about a fundamental shift in our posture, in how we even approach the idea of healing. It really boils down to this. This IET framework invites us to shift from being the expert who has all the answers to being genuinely curious about a person and their whole world. It asks us to shift from focusing on just one specific intervention to being aware of the entire environment. And finally, it gets us to move from thinking in terms of separate, isolated services to seeing a whole shared ecosystem of care. And that leads to the last thing I want to leave you with. This isn't just for therapists or researchers. It's really a question for every single one of us. So forget the fancy terms for a second and just ask yourself this. Where in your world, in your life, in your neighborhood, where does healing actually happen? The answer might be in a place you'd never expect.